Well, UNAIDS says women continue to bear the brunt of the HIV epidemic. According to their latest report, AIDS-related illnesses remain the biggest killer of women between the ages of 15 and 49. In sub-Saharan Africa, 4 in 5 new infections in adolescents are among girls. For more on this, I'm now joined by UNAIDS Executive Director Winnie Byanyima. Winnie, thank you very much for coming in. You know, we are also flustered about coronavirus and we're really concerned about that. But the reality is HIV/AIDS is still the biggest challenge we're facing in this region. Enormous strides have been made, but some very distressing news about how this disease is still impacting women and girls.
Absolutely. The world has made tremendous progress against HIV/AIDS, but it is still with us. 25 years since this response was started, the global response, we have now 25 million people on treatment, living long and healthy lives, but we still had last year 1.7 million people newly infected in 1 year. We have on this continent in sub-Saharan Africa 4,500 young girls and women newly infected every week. So it is still a crisis. AIDS is the biggest killer of women in their reproductive age, between 15 and 49 years of age. So it's still with us, unfortunately. And the face of HIV/AIDS on this continent is the face of a young woman, of a girl. That's what makes it so sad, because you begin to see that HIV/AIDS is really driven by the huge inequalities between men and women, between girls and boys. Is driven by the violence that is gender-based. It's driven by the lack of opportunity, by discrimination, by a culture of tolerating violence, stigmatization, and discrimination. So we can change all those things.
How are we going to change all those things? I mean, I think, am I correct, that one of the biggest problems is complacency, perhaps, a sense of, well, there's drugs that we can just go on the drugs if we get it. But it's not that simple, is it?
No. First of all, HIV/AIDS still has no vaccine to prevent and no cure. And so, but there is a range of scientific tools that have been there and that can be used to prevent, to test and to treat. But it is still a disease and a killer disease. We do need to let young people especially know that even though the deaths have decreased, it's still a killer disease. Last year alone, more than 800,000 people died of HIV-related illnesses around the world. So we need to help young people to understand this, especially because they've grown up without seeing the disease killing people because of treatment, but they need to know. Besides, it is also an issue of how to sustain so many people on treatment. In this country now, you have 5 million people on treatment. South Africa is a country with the highest burden, but fighting hard to keep people alive and well. 5 million, more than 5 million on treatment. Still another 3 million who need to come on treatment, whom we know are HIV. That is a huge cost to the economy of a country, considering that these are people who are going to stay on treatment perhaps for the rest of their lives. So, but we need to tackle the drivers. Absolutely. We need to tackle violence against women.
And that's not an easy one. You know, we've seen that since the Beijing Declaration and the promise to girls and women 25 years ago, there have been great strides made in educating girls, which is really wonderful news that they're now finishing school more and more. The trickier things to tackle are the things within society, the gender-based violence. How do we go about managing that successfully? Because it's not a single focus. It has to be coordinated, it has to be sustained, and it's little bit by little bit, which is so hard, isn't it?
You're right, Sally. We've made a lot of progress on formal laws. Most countries now have laws against violence against women since Beijing. But what is harder to deal with are the informal laws, the social norms, the laws that are written in people's hearts, that come from their traditions, their cultures, their religions, these are harder to erode, to fight. We need to get better at that, because violence against women, gender-based violence, is driven, is tolerated by what we learn informally, those informal rules. So that is where our progress has been slow. That is where we have to work harder, and that's where we need governments to step up, to see it as their business, to change minds, to invest in campaigning to change minds. We need the religious leaders, all opinion leaders. We need companies to step up. Companies, through their advertising, send powerful images about what's right and wrong in society, what a girl should do and what a boy should do. They need to use their advertising, their marketing, to promote the right values of equality, of justice, of solidarity, of nonviolence. So we need everyone to step up to change the way people, girls and boys, see themselves, men and women interact, and promote equality.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us to share that important message. That was Winnie Byanyima, who's the Executive Director of UNAIDS. Well, let's now